Hello, welcome to Coscast. I'm William, WhiteFangCosplay, and this is...
I'm Deirdre, I'm RiboseCosplay.
And we are at episode 2. We really hope you enjoyed episode 1. We got a lot of great feedback from that, and we're really excited to do another one. Before we get started, I'd like to say that this podcast is brought to you by Hero Hair Cosplay Wigs for the Serious Adventure, and we'll be talking about them later in the episode. First off, I'd like to have our friend Deirdre introduce herself to us.
Yeah. I'm Deirdre. A lot of people call me Dee. That's mostly, I think, what the community knows me as. Also as RiboseCosplay, which, as a fun story, comes from DNA, which sometimes my friends call me because D and deoxyribonucleic, ribosome.
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, exactly. That's why my little logo looks like this really scary ribbon with DNA strands. But I've been cosplaying since like the glory days of 2012, which we'll be talking about later. But it's always been like a very casual thing, and I didn't get like super into it until fairly recently when I started like becoming more active in the community. It was always something that like my friends and myself would just like go off into the woods and take pictures of each other and cosplay, and it was like a lot of fun back home. And they actually, all my friends will still cosplay with me, even though I live in a different city now, and I have a whole huge community growing. So, yeah.
I feel like when everyone's starting out cosplay, it's never like a slow like slope. It's always like, oh, it's a thing I did like once or twice a year, and then out of nowhere just exploded into like, yeah. Any avid cosplayer at least will tell you, because there's plenty of cosplayers out there who only go to like 1 or 2 cons a year.
Which is great.
Which is totally fine, but like the ones who go to several cons a year, like myself and like, you more or less. Just like, there was just one point where you just started doing like 2 to 3 times more and just never looked back. Like,
I think it's because I just like kept seeing more things I wanted to make, and I was like, oh god, need places to bring them to.
Well, it's so funny about when it comes to cosplay. I feel like the more involved you get, the more inspired you get, and you feel a bigger urge to like do more.
It's so funny. After a con crunch, the only thing I want to do after attending a con is then just immediately go back to work, because I see the hard work that everyone else does. I'm like, why am I resting now? Like, I'm fine, let's go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's like literally never enough. And you just think like, I never want to do cosplay again. You go to the con and you're just like, that was the best thing ever, and now I want to go back.
Too real.
Yeah.
Too real.
So, as we mentioned in the last podcast, Anime Boston happened just a couple weeks ago, and we both went. Mm-hmm. How was your experience for the weekend? Did you go all 3 days?
Yeah, I went day 0 on Thursday as well. And this was a great con for me because a lot of my friends actually came in from out of state, and they stayed with me. I was hosting, like, I guess in total a group of 13, which is awesome. And a lot of my friends that were going, it was their very first con, or like their first time cosplaying, something like that. So that was really cool. But I was there all 3 days. It's always like really nice and fun because it's chill. I live very close by. It's easy to get there. In some ways, it's like oddly stressful because there's so many people there that I want to see. And then I'm like, okay, like I have a shoot at 3, and I'm gonna then go say hi to this person and this person and this person and this person, and then it just gets like a little overwhelming. But I got like a nice chance to catch up with people that I haven't seen at other bigger cons, because I know who's gonna be at Anime Boston, and it was the first con I ever went to, actually.
Right. What year was the first time?
2012.
Jeez. So you've really seen this con grow over the past years.
Yeah.
And last year was my first year, and that year they had a fall in attendance due to some problems they had back in 2015.
There was some issues with security in the past where security tried to confiscate my comb.
Oh.
And
a comb.
I was cosplaying Utsutsu from Gatchaman Crowds, and my wig like stuck out to the side. It's long, it's like down to my knees, giant bow, and one of the other security guards like looked at me, and she's like, she needs her comb. We can never take that from her.
Yeah.
But it was around just the times of tension in Boston where security had to be amped at Anime Boston, and of course with a con and all the random stuff that cosplayers bring was a bit of an issue.
Yeah. I think we talk about security a lot at cons, mostly when it's bad, mostly because security is a great way to really like tick off cosplayers, like, because it's one of the first people you interact with, and if they treat you like crap, you're gonna feel like crap, you know.
Yeah, but then again, I've had like some really good experiences with security where like I was cosplaying Senjo Gahara from the show Bakemonogatari. very small show, but it's my personal favorite. And I had a prop that was literally just school supplies. Like, I just kind of glued everything to a protractor so I could hold it easily. And I made sure not to put, like, things like scissors on, because I knew that's dangerous, that's not good. So it's mostly just pens and stuff, but it could potentially, like, cause an uproar. I don't know why, but there was, like, a stapler involved. And the security guy was just like, "Hi, I remember you." And, like, every time I walked by, he's like, "I'll never forget that one." And I was like, "Thanks."
Yeah, I've had good ones where, like, as, like, someone who will shoot video, I had, like, one guy, and I got worried because, like, this was one of the first times I brought all my video equipment into a convention. I was like, are they gonna, like, not like some of the stuff in there? The guy opens up the camera and he's like, "Oh, I have the same camera. That's awesome. You're all set." And it's
Nice.
like, yeah. And this was actually, that interaction was at Anime Boston last year, because last year I don't know what they did, because they usually hire, like, a third party like Securitas to do their security, so I don't think the con itself has a lot of control over the security itself. I think it's more of the venue, actually. So it's kind of hard to blame a lot at the convention, more of just, like, if they address it to the company or not. And I feel like they actually did that, because last year I had literally the best experiences I've ever had with security.
Awesome.
Like that one I said, and just common, like, niceness, just, like, people who don't seem like they're not happy to see you. Like, there's people who are just trying to do their job, but then there's just some people that are just, like, they seem like they have a vendetta against you before you even say a word, and that's just not fun, you know. So,
but how was your Anime Boston?
It was really good. Like I said, last year they made a lot of improvements, and I think we continue to see that this year. And I thought what was really great about this year is that not only did we continue to see the improvements, but I think it was very clear that they listened to the feedback that all the people gave them the year prior to, which I don't honestly see a lot of conventions doing, because Anime Boston really pushes their survey at the end of their con, and I think that it shows that it's because they actually wanted to listen to what people had to say. One of my favorite adjustments that they made, like, as an organization itself and what they had in their control, is that last year, one of the things I didn't like is that they had their, like, coat check and stuff like that right across from the dealer's room, and it was in the hallway, so it added, like, a bottleneck to that main hallway right in front of the dealer's room, which is a high traffic area at this convention. This year they put it in, like, a separate room, like where a panel would be. Yeah,
wasn't it even, like, outside the convention center?
I don't know 100% sure, but it had its own room rather than in the hallway. I didn't see it,
and that's the good thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. And it was way better flowing through that. In fact, I think the traffic in general was very manageable this year, which is great. As always, the dealer's room and artist alleys are stupendous at this con.
Was so good this year.
So good. They did a great job of getting people in the convention. I think the longest wait time I heard was like half hour, which is not bad at all.
There was one time where the wait time was super long, and, like, I was there, I don't remember the year, but it was ridiculously long. Like, my friends and I went back to our place and, like, ditched our bags because we're like, we want this stuff, but can't. Or my friend was cosplaying from Harvest Moon, so she had a little a basket with a stuffed chicken in it, and we're like, this is a prop, stuff all your stuff under the chicken, like, it's fine. And that's how we got through bag check. But in this year, there was one point where the line was about 45 minutes, I heard. But there was someone standing there, and she's like, listen, it's 45 minutes. Don't know why people are still going into this line. Go around this way. It'll be 5 minutes. And I was like, okay, absolutely. And I did, and it was just like, for a 2-minute walk outside, I was in 5 minutes. It was
right, because Anime Boston, I did notice they advertised this on, I think, their Twitter. They had 3 entrances. They had the main entrance, which was directly from the mall where the main entrance to the convention center is, but they also had the side entrance that would go into Artist Alley, which you could get through the Sheraton on the second level. That's my favorite entrance. Same. But they also had, I don't think they had this last year, they had a street entrance.
So they do, but it's not always open.
Gotcha.
They have one that's on Boylston into the Hines, but they actually even opened up another one that's
Really?
Don't know the name of the street, but it's between, like, the street that the Sheraton and Hilton are on, and right before Boylston, like right before the corner. It's this little side back door that would look like you're going backstage or something like that. And it was really nice as well that they were just ushering people in.
So if anything, I feel like the Twitter was kind of, like, little too late, because I don't feel like many people are checking it at the time. I feel like if they did a better job of advertising that, hey, we have multiple entrances, please utilize them because we have them for a reason, so we can disperse the crowd. Because like, if you had a problem with a half hour to 45-minute wait to get in the con, you go in the other entrance and it took less than 5 minutes. So, like, anyone who wants to complain about that, honestly, like, may or may not have a legit reason to
investigate some more.
Exactly. So, because I think it's pretty common knowledge, at least the Artist Alley entrance, because they had that last year too. So I feel like that was common knowledge for people who knew the con.
Yeah.
So good job on their parts of really getting it. And it was all minus the street entrances, which granted never really had lines. All of the waits were inside, so you didn't have to worry about weather. You didn't have to worry about being cold, because I'm not trying to like trash conventions, but like I'm being honest, Rhode Island Comic Con, man, like they make you wait more than an hour outside, and this is we're talking in November in Rhode Island. Like it's not warm. Yeah, it's so if you're gonna make if you're gonna make like cosplayers especially wait outside, it's like
with
wait
all
in
of our
line.
random
Just make it inside, please. Just there is ways. So, but yeah. I try not to rant too much on that because there's only so much they can do. Some spaces are different. Like this had enough space where they could cater to bring people inside for a line. Some convention spaces literally don't have the space to queue a bunch of people in. But yeah, Anime Boston was great. Saw really a lot of great cosplayers. Also, one thing I really got to talk about Anime Boston is the amount of work that the staff puts into this con, because
they're incredible.
Yeah, the staff is super energetic. You can tell that
they're all I think they're all volunteers.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
The people love being here, and not only that, but they put a lot of extra effort into places that you wouldn't expect. For instance, I went to their AMV showing for their contest, and they had a bunch of videos that they made beforehand to hype up the audience before the thing happened. So they had these choose your own adventure things where they pre-made these cards, and it's okay, so you can go this is the situation, you choose option A or option B, and then on the screen it'd be now yell out your answer and see how you did, because one of them was good and one of them was bad.
So cool.
And it was really cute. And then they had some pre-made videos with they had their own mascots for this convention, which I don't know.
I'll try and beat you.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And it's just I appreciate that, because to some people it seems like a little thing, but I know that actually takes a lot of work to put all that together.
I don't know what they did, and it might have been this year. No, it was last year. It was definitely last year. I followed some of the cosplayers that actually got to cosplay the Anime Boston mascots.
Oh wow!
And they they went off and they did shoots to do promos. So it was a kind of throwback year last year. The theme, I don't remember the exact theme name. Also, Samurai Shogun next year. Heck yeah, kimonos. But they went and got the Back to the Future car and took pictures in it, but dressed as the Anime Boston mascots. And I just I've never seen a con have besides, well, not a con, but Crunchyroll will have someone cosplay their mascot, but it's just really cool that people actually will cosplay that.
Yeah, it's awesome. I just last year I was more indifferent about Anime Boston, but that was more of my own fault, because Anime Boston's a big con, by the way. So it's
that's my first con. I was like, whoa, what's happening?
I think they were low last year, and they were still hitting 23,000 people. Yeah, I think this year was 27,000. But yeah, it's a big con, and in Boston, a big disclaimer I have to make is that this is in downtown Boston.
Oh yeah,
it is super stressful to get to this place. I highly recommend footing the extra bill to get a hotel that's in walking distance of.
The Sheraton and Hilton are ideal. Parking's a little tough.
Parking is tough. The Westin is also an option because it's also connected. It's a little bit more of a walk, but it is connected by sky bridges, so you can walk all the way inside, because that's where I stayed.
That's a nice hotel too.
So yeah, you actually have 3 hotels connected by sky bridges, so all indoor walks. You also have a hotel across the street, so minimal walk. So yeah, you definitely have lots of options there, but they are expensive. But honestly, you'll make it up because just in driving in the house, just the amount of mental toll it puts on you. The convention itself is really busy, so you're gonna have a little mental stress there. You don't need stress already happening before you even get to the con. That's always a good way to have a bad time.
So I'm really lucky that I live in Boston, so that eliminates a lot of stress for me, and why I'll keep going to Anime Boston. But I was walking to get breakfast on Friday morning, and I saw the perfect Anime Boston thing where I pass a guy with a katana on his back, and I pass a couple of cosplayers who are cosplaying Digimon, and then I walk by a mom and her 2 daughters all sipping their coconut milk coming out of spin class, or coconut water coming out of spin class, and I was like, seems about right. This is Boston now.
As someone who lives in Boston, do you think taking the train is a good option?
I think so. I've done it. The commuter rail will get a lot of people in from far, and like you might get a few looks from people, but like I personally have grown kind of used to that, especially if I'm with other people. I'm like, this is my life now. And same with the T. I've definitely taken the T Boston subway system in cosplay before, alone and with other cosplayers, just kind of depending on what I'm doing. And I think that also works. There's basically 2 stops at the convention center. There's one literally in the mall. That's the Prudential Center stop for the Green Line, and then there's also the Heinz Convention Center stop, which is not in the Heinz, despite popular belief, but it's like down the street a little bit, and it's very accessible. So
yeah, definitely the more affordable option. If you're gonna do it and you're not familiar with Boston, definitely worth the research. Make sure that you know what you're doing. Yeah, when it comes to cons like these that are in Boston, New York City, or like DC, do your research beforehand so you're not trying to figure out stuff on the fly, because like, especially like when you're a cosplayer, especially if you're just going as a normal like con goer, there's probably a lot less stress. But when you're basically,
we have to make every piece work.
Yeah, when you're worrying about that, when you're probably not always 100% comfortable with what you're wearing, whether it be heat or coldness or just general discomfort about like something being heavy or
your
just,
armor.
Yeah, so it's like you're already agitated. Like literally anything that's even a little bit stressful can really set you down a bad path. And I think that a lot of these situations could be avoided with a lot of pre-thought, you know. So I know I'm still guilty of doing stuff on the fly. It's gonna happen, but if you're looking to have less stressful times, it is actually worth doing your research, especially with big cons like this. But yeah, other than that, like that's really the only negative thing I have to say about that, and that's not to do with the con. That's just the location, and it's both good and bad. It's good because it brings in a lot of awesome people. They've got a lot of in the dealer's room. They've got a lot of really great companies. So like Funimation, Crunchyroll comes out. That's awesome. They have a lot of great guests at this con too.
So many good
so if you love
voice
actors, yeah, this is a good con to go to. And like I said before, with their staff, their panels and their events, I went to the Masquerade. All so well done.
Good.
Some of the best events that you'll see.
I really like their Masquerade.
Their Masquerade is really, really good. Yeah, and also their AMVs is highly contested for. So like if you want to see some like best in the country AMVs, if that's your thing, then this is a good con to go to. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Definitely. This went from being a solid con to being like a great con in my mind after this year, after 1, knowing the con, and 2, just really seeing the amount of effort that the staff and the general vibe of the con itself was like really on the upside, and that was really encouraging. And yeah, I really like this con. So yeah. So right now actually,
other big cons.
Yeah. So right now actually, the reason why we're not on our normal set is because we're actually in the Boston area for PAX East. So, or at least I am. You just, like you said, live in Boston.
I'm here.
So
I'm always here.
Yeah. But yeah, so currently we're recording this on the Saturday night of PAX East. So I've experienced both Friday and Saturday of PAX East as a whole.
And I have experienced jealousy.
Hey. So have you ever been to PAX East at all?
I actually have not. I've walked by the Boston Convention Center when it's happening, but I just feel like the only games I play are just super, super small indie games that like don't have a huge following, but I still love them. But it's like, I feel like, and please tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the focus of PAX East tends to be like the big name games, and like the little games, they're there, they get represented, but it's just not worth it to me to go for that.
I will say, you're half right. Okay. So, the really cool stuff that you can basically get from this con that you won't get from other cons do only happen with the bigger ones. So anything Blizzard oriented, anything Riot related, anything Nintendo, or any like big studio related things. There's going to be some really cool, unique experiences that you can have at this con if you like those studios. However, they do a great job of representing the indie games.
Yeah, I've heard there's an awesome indie game.
They have a whole like section of like I forget, they have a specific name for it, but it's like they put all the indie games together in like basically the center of the expo hall, and it's like maybe like, and now granted, this is huge. This is bigger than like, this is a huge area. It's like probably an eighth of the size, which is like a considerable. It's the same size as the tabletop area, where they just have a sea of like of just tables for tabletop games, D&D, all that stuff. Like seriously, like hundreds of tables. Like
that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's about the same size as that. So they definitely do dedicate a lot. However, like you said, like you're not exactly going to get any extra representation per se, and there's not going to really be anything super like unique there other than just playing the games themselves.
Right.
Like, because the big conventions that show up to this con, they love doing like fun stuff. But you're probably not going to see, like, Overwatch, for instance, has this, like, it's not even...
I saw this.
Yeah, it's not even in the expo hall. It's just in the entrance. They have this green, like, half-circle green screen, and they put you on this turning table.
It's so cool.
Yeah, and they insert you into, like, an Overwatch map, and it just, like, the camera's still, and you turn on this table, so there's always green screen behind you, and so you can have like a few people on, and you're like rotating, so it looks like the camera's moving, but really you're moving.
And it's like your player intro. I don't even know. I don't play Overwatch, but I saw it on Instagram. Like, that is cool. I want that.
And it's free. Like, they just do lots of fun stuff. Yeah, you don't even have to pay for that. They're just like, yeah, just as long as you're willing to wait a little bit in line, you know, go for it. And they have like, so like this is my first time going to PAX East. I've been trying to go to PAX East longer than any other con because video games was my first love as far as like geeky fandoms go. But PAX East is also very synonymous with the tickets being very hard to get. And this year I was actually like really on top of it. Except that this year was also the first year that they made it a 4-day con, being Thursday now their first day, and tickets weren't as hard to get. In fact, you can still get Sunday tickets as I speak.
Yeah, so, I was actually offered a Sunday ticket, but like at that point I was like, like all my friends are going Saturday, so.
So I was like, yay, but it's like, dang it, the one time I was actually on top of it, I could just got tickets whenever, because that's the only reason why I haven't gone, is because I haven't been actually able to purchase the tickets.
They were good about reselling this year too.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, props to them, because it's such a like synonymous for being hard to get for tickets. And what I mean like bad, like Saturday tickets sold out within 40 minutes of them going live. Like, that's how on top of you have to be. If you're not sitting at your computer when they go live, you're probably not getting a Saturday ticket.
Yeah.
So, Friday tickets did sell out like the next day, but then when they actually went through all the tickets and like spotted the people who were scalping them or like who were buying them to resell and got all of those things back, and then they had a lot more Friday tickets to offer, and I think it was another like week or so before the Friday sold out again. But you could get Thursday tickets and Sunday tickets all the way up till the con. So awesome. and I mean this by like from PAX East itself, like not from other people, because other people are always selling tickets.
Oh yeah.
But like you could still just legitimately purchase tickets from them. But yeah, so I was really hyped going into this, like half knowing what to expect, but not really knowing what to expect, especially since I've been wanting to go for this for so long, but now I have a different context for conventions, because this is a different kind of convention. Right. First off, you're going to notice that the cosplay percentage, like cosplay percentage being like the cosplay per non-cosplayer ratio goes. Anime cons are pretty synonymous with having a very high cosplay ratio, which anywhere between 60 and 80%, which is kind of crazy. Like Anime Boston probably has about a 70, I would say.
That's a lot, yeah.
And yeah, you're just used to seeing, like you are so comfortable being a cosplayer because just like more than half the people are cosplaying. That's just how it is. This one, however, is probably 10 to 20. Really? Like 20 at best.
I didn't actually realize that.
Yeah, super low cosplay percentage. There's a lot of people. Well, because like the big thing about this is that this is a video game convention. It's not a Comic-Con.
So
it's
people
not
are going to play games.
Yeah, people are playing to get games. Not exactly the best thing to do, but also it's more appealing to people who don't cosplay because there's more actual things to do that makes them want to go. Right. Like literally, you could view this as like a Disney World thing where you just wait in lines to play games all day, because there is hundreds upon hundreds of games to play. I would be amazed if you played every single game that was on the floor. I don't think it's even possible.
Definitely not. From what I've seen.
Yeah, and then there's a slew of panels and events, and also a big focus on this thing, and I'm sure it's been more recent in the past few years, but there's a huge focus on streamers. Twitch is very heavily impacted on this con. There's lots of meet and greets for streamers, lots of meet and greets for just Twitch people in general, whether you're big or not. And lots of, like, they have these really cool things where they have these stream pods right in front of the convention center for Boston. Even though this is in Boston, it's not the same one as Anime Boston. It's in a different one, which I actually prefer this one because
it's really big. It's not in a mall.
It's really big, and it's towards the outskirts of downtown Boston, so it's a lot easier to get in and out of this place. Parking is also way cheaper and more ideal because...
It is harder for public transportation, though. If you are taking the train in, getting to the seaport area where the convention center is a lot trickier, and I usually just end up walking.
But yeah, like you said, like it's huge. It's the biggest one that Boston has to offer, especially in just like... Because the Highs is more of like your typical con layout where it's a lot more hallways and a lot of rooms for like really big panels and auditoriums for events. This one has a lot of like, is more focused on having a big open area that can be used for whatever. So like this is the kind of convention center that you use for like RV and car shows where you need that big open concrete space. And the biggest area is completely open, not sectioned off at all, for their expo hall. And one of the best things that you can do is as you take the escalator down into this area from the entrance, you get to see the entire expanse of it. And you just see all the signs from like PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, and all the big name game makers, Blizzard, Riot, Square Enix, and all these, like, this is a really cool con to see because there's a lot of people who are dumping a lot of money into this convention. So, like, the booths are really freaking cool. Yeah. Like, the Blizzard booth, which is, like, up front in the corner, like, it's, like, the thing is, like...
Can you even call it a booth at that point?
No, it's not. It's like... Yeah, so they have these, like, you could buy a bunch of, like, special merch. They have their games to play. They have, like... There's so many TVs in this convention just playing videos or video games. Or streaming now, and just like huge projection. Like, this is a fun con just to walk around and have no goal whatsoever. There's lots of stuff to look at, and a lot of like this is a huge convention center, but I guarantee you almost every single square inch of this convention center is used. Like, it is very efficient in making use of this convention hall.
If anyone's ever been to New York Comic Con, the layout of the Boston Convention Center kind of reminds me of Javits Center.
Yeah, no, you're right, because I have been to Javits.
Because I haven't been to the convention center for PAX, but I've been there for other things, and, like, there's just something about it that, like, now that you're talking about it, I'm like, huh, that's kind of what New York Comic Con's like.
Yeah. There's just clearly a lot of thought and money put into this con. They have like just a lot of like weird things that I'm not used to seeing conventions. That's really awesome. So when you're you've basically, this whole convention is surrounded by this open expo hall, and then in the floors to the outer rim of this convention center is where you have all your panel rooms and stuff like that. And when you're out there, they'll have like TVs in the hallways and stuff like that. That's usually for promotions, and they'll go through this slide, and on one of the slides it'll show you the current and next up panels that are happening, and it'll tell you how full they are.
Oh,
like, they have
awesome.
percentage meters. Like, this con is 25% full, and this panel is 25% full, and this one's like 78% full. So you know, like,
it's even worth trying to get.
Exactly, if it's trying to, because there's a lot of lines of people like waiting to get into because they want good seats. So,
how is crowd control there? Because I've heard it's packed always.
It is very packed.
There are a lot of lines.
But I gotta say, PAX East has. It's hard to imagine that they have more than enough staff, but they really do. Like, for every line, you will have, like, a staff member for, like, every, like, 30 feet of people. So, like, there's really, really, really good crowd control here, and I'm so impressed by it. In every part of the convention, too, when it comes to lines in the hallways where the panels are, when it comes to the entrance itself, when it comes to the expo floor where there are some areas where there's big booths that people like to crowd around, that makes it that those areas are clear. Like, they do everything possible to make sure that you can get from point A to B the fastest, and that they're making sure that this is also safe, for fire hazard reasons. And while I'm on this topic, the staff itself is really good. Very similar to AB, just a different kind of fandom per se.
Right.
But everyone's really knowledgeable, so great job on the training for people like knowing what they're actually doing and are very helpful. And like the big thing that I really look forward to in staff is I just want them to be honest. If you don't know something, just say you don't know. Yeah. Don't try to pretend that you know something or give someone false directions, because that sucks, because then it just makes it worse, and then you're basically giving them a bad time. Nobody wants that. But yeah, so is this worth cosplaying for?
You're cosplaying, right?
Yeah, so I am cosplaying. I'm not cosplaying for the last day because I'm actually going to try and play games. I'm just going to wear a kiku. So
good.
Yeah, take a day. Yeah, comfort. Take a day. Preferably Thursday, honestly, because that's the least amount of people there. But take a day to just enjoy the convention without a cosplay burdening you.
Honestly, when I went to New York Comic Con, again, throwing back to like my only sounds like comparison.
Yeah.
I didn't cosplay, and it was probably one of the best con experience of my life, because I'm not like stressing about things breaking like a very crowded space. Mm-hmm. And honestly, New York Comic Con probably had 10 to 20% cosplay as well. Yeah. Because it's just so big that it's kind of a hassle to deal with your cosplay, and like any cosplayers I saw literally were like sitting, stationed, ready for pictures. So good on the Kiku.
Did they have like similar crowd control there with their staff at New York Comic Con, or?
There weren't as many lines, and I didn't really try to venture into the lines. I'm standing by like the indie comic places, like that's if you couldn't tell, that's my vibe. Yeah. But like they did obviously do a really good job keeping it like halls clear. Everything was clear. Like I didn't notice the amount of people that were there.
That's always a great feeling. This con could be immensely packed and stressful. However, honestly, you can see that there's a crap ton of people here. You are never at a point where you're always moving, and I think that's important. If you're like in a crowd that's literally not moving, where everyone is trying to move, something's not happening. Yeah. But no, this one, like, there's a lot of people, and like, you'll occasionally bump into people, but honestly, like, for the amount of people that's here, it's like really good. I've had cons that had less people and more crowd problems. Yeah. So
what game are you most excited to play tomorrow?
So I've seen, what I really want to try to do tomorrow is a lot of like VR oriented things, because I wanted to go play games that have setups that I couldn't ever dream of having at home.
Fair.
So they have there's a lot of racing games there. They have this one racing game, however, where they have a VR headset. They've got the full like steering wheel and pedal setup, and it's on like one of those like roller coaster simulator things.
Oh, that's so cool. You're
like everything's moving, like it couldn't be more immersive.
That's so cool.
So I gotta try that one out tomorrow. Something that's not VR related that I kind of want to try out. I want to play Battlegrounds. I want to play PUBG, because they have a huge PUBG area where there's like I could be under 100. It looks like there could be 100 computers there, which would be amazing because that's how many players are in a match. So basically, you just have one big private match, but everyone's there instead of just randomly online.
Wild.
Yeah, so like I want to do that because that's awesome. You know, it's like a big LAN party, and I miss like LAN gaming. You know?
Oh man, brings me back to high school.
So you like indie games? There is this amazingly funny indie game where it's a VR jousting game, and they have this setup at their booth where they have saddles. So they put the two people up on the saddles, and I think the best part, honestly, is watching people play this game, because no matter how hard...
I love watching people do VR. It's the best!
No matter how hard you try, you can't not look silly. But everyone that goes up is super into it. So they've got the VR headsets on, and they've got the controllers, and they're like, and joust, and they're like, ah! And you see them swinging, but they're like, in the game, you can see them moving towards each other, But yeah, they're stationary on the saddles, so they're just...
I love it. That's so good.
But it honestly looks really super fun. And I can't remember the name of the game specifically, but I feel like if you looked up like VR jousting, I'm sure it would come up.
Yeah.
And that looked like a lot of fun. That's one that caught my attention. They had they have a lot of indie games. I want to say at least 60 indie games there, which is great. A lot of really cool stuff. And I think more than ever, if you didn't know, like indie games are like really thriving. So yeah.
I wanted to bring my transistor sword to see Supergiant games there, but like it also, I don't think it could survive PAX East size. With that many people around, like it's a fragile thing. It barely survived Katsu.
I will say one of the like perks about there not being as many cosplayers is that you get a lot of attention because yeah, there's that. If you're a big so if you hit the sweet spot with the right video game cosplay, like you can get a lot of attention here if that's what you're into.
And people would also probably recognize you a lot better.
And then there's also, like I said, with perks about being companies like Blizzard there and stuff like that, they have people from the company, who like to advertise the cosplays that they see. So if you're like,
I've got shout outs.
Yeah, if I got a sick Overwatch cosplay, like bring it to PAX East because you're going to get a lot of attention.
Maybe I'll go next year and just like be like, hello everyone, look at my like small indie games that no one recognizes, but like there'll be like maybe 2 people. Yeah, better than 0.
I also went to this fun. I tried it. Like I mostly cosplay and experience like the deals room and outside, but I tried to dabble in everything so I could get a good feel about what the con has to offer. I went to a panel last night called Super Art Fight. It's this, and they have a Kickstarter thing, so if you feel like supporting them, go look them up. But Super Art Fight is where you have 2 people with an empty canvas, and they're basically painting a battle scene over the course of 25 minutes. And granted, you probably have to have some skill with drawing because there's a lot of improv stuff, but it's freaking awesome and hilarious to watch. They had 2 commentators who were really good at commentating people drawing for crying out loud. Yeah, it was awesome, and they made it super entertaining. And the game itself is basically, you have it like on the computer, and it's like 2 like Wheel of Fortune, like no, Price is Right kind of wheels spin, and they have one topic for each drawer that they have to stick to, so you can't just have complete free round.
Oh man, it's just like
and they have super funny topics like man, what was it? They had a fill in the blank president, so they had to do like president or so like if you already had the challenge is the more you draw, the harder it gets to like incorporate it is, but you're allowed to draw over your own stuff and other people's stuff, so you can turn stuff around.
Oh, it's kind of like that game. I don't know if you ever played it where like you draw one thing, then you pass the paper to your friend. And something else, and then you get it back, and now it's like now there's a squid in the middle of your paper, and you're like, that's not what I was going for at all. But
it's exactly like that. And at the end, they have the crowd cheer for the person they thought did the better job with the art fight. And it was a super unique and super fun time.
Cool.
I will say part of it probably had to do with the atmosphere, but honestly, I really appreciated how unique this was and fun it was to experience. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. You should check them out online. It was a lot of fun to watch. I don't know if they have videos of them doing at conventions. I would assume they do, but
they might after this weekend.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for them. I know they got Kickstarter stuff going on, so check them out if you want to support them. But yeah, and that experience was great. Like everything I've experienced with this con, honestly, has been. I haven't had a single negative experience.
Awesome.
So
okay. Noted.
Yeah,
I'll see you there next year.
Hey, and I hope to see you guys there next year too. So. Yeah, any other questions that you had about that con? Like, you sound pretty sad about coming, but,
No, I mean, look, when I asked about the crowd controls, I know last year they had a lot of problems with capping lines off, and, like, they capped them super fast, so I just didn't know if that was a thing.
I mean, they definitely do cap lines, but I appreciate lines being capped because you never want to wait in a line for an hour only to be turned away to not get what you're going to get, so...
It depends on what you want out of it, too. Like, I had friends that went to PAX... We're like, this isn't for me, and we went to Anime Boston, we're like, this is perfect. Because, like, while they liked games, they kind of had all the games they wanted at home, and weren't looking to go and, like, try that many new things, and it wasn't worth waiting in lines. They weren't as interested in, like, the people, the crowds. And, like, low-key, I'm really happy, because now they're like, ooh, I could cosplay more, and I'm like, come with me. So... Yeah, I think it comes down to, like, what you want out of it, but it's definitely a con I want to go to, like, at least once.
Yeah.
So.
And there's, like, so many things. So you got the big companies. You've also got a lot of awesome streamers and YouTubers who come out. I got to see a lot of the Achievement Hunter people. Oh, cool. We're big fans of this. That was awesome. And I actually didn't get to talk to them, but I do, in fact... have selfies now with Markiplier Jacksepticeye.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I got super lucky. I just happened to be the right place at the one time. 2 times!
Just like quickly turn around, like snap a pic.
Yeah, so like this happened 2 separate times. I managed to catch them as they were going into the convention, clearly with a barrage of people because they were on their way to a panel, like very directional, and they both let me get a walk and talk selfie with them, and so that was really cool. And they were both...
What good nerds.
Yeah, it was really... Because I do really love those YouTubers. Markiplier especially, because I love how Markiplier always puts... People make fun of him for... I think it's stupid. He really tries to put a positive thing about all the stuff he does, and he gets emotional sometimes. I don't think that's something to be made fun of. Like, I appreciate that. Like, yeah, he genuinely cares about his fans and the work that he's doing, you know?
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, so... it was really cool to see them, even though I didn't really get to talk to them per se, but I think it's pretty awesome that I got a selfie with them to have that, to remember that. They do, in fact, had panels, so, like, if you're big fans of them, that's also a great reason to go to PAX East. So,
yeah,
good stuff. All right, so next thing I want to talk about before we move on here is that I want to talk about more of our sponsor being Hero Hair, as we're talking about great companies. This is a great company, especially if you're a cosplayer. Hero Hair... Cosplay Wigs for the Serious Adventure is the world's first and only custom cosplay wig wig company run by motion picture and television industry professionals. Hero Hair creates screen-accurate, feature film-grade lace-front custom cosplay wigs and facial hair directly from the cosplayer-inspired imagination in any genre, movies, television, comics, and even original concepts to complete the cosplayer's transformative illusion. Hero Hair wigs are state-of-the-art and the absolute highest level of quality that is physically possible, using the most advanced cutting-edge design applications, methodologies, and materials currently at the vanguard of professional custom cosplay wig industries. These entertainment professionals bring with them the combined total of more than 100 years of experience in crafting one of the most complex and often misunderstood aspects of cosplay itself, the wig, and the literal figurative crown of cosplay. You should also check out their hashtag Crown Your Cosplay on Instagram and any of the other social networks to see all of their representatives and all the stuff that they do with their cosplay and Hero Hair wigs that are on actual cosplayers. And I think you'll be really impressed, just like the cosplayer that we're featuring this time, which is at Sanchez 521. So Sanchez being SANCHEZ 521 if you want to check him online. His name is Chris. He's going through a complete body transformation in order to play all of his new cosplay characters, starting with Aquaman from Justice League. He's lost hundreds of pounds to put on 40 to 50 pounds of muscle in the last several years.
I actually think I saw him.
Yeah, he's insane. We really think that his like complete transformation of like body and soul is really commendable for what he's trying to do for cosplay. There's a lot of dedication. He's also getting a new piece from Hero Hair for his Spartan from 300 cosplay, and that's gonna be really awesome to see as well. So like Aquaman, Spartan, like that's gonna be really awesome.
Come on, guys.
And like, if you think that like, and this is the part where I talk off script, if you think that their wigs aren't as legit as they're making it sound, you just got to check them out, because they're literally, I don't see how you can make them any more perfect. I've seen them in person myself, both on cosplayers and on wig heads, and they're like the real deal. They look just like real hair, and they look just like literal screen accurate things. And for a lot of like, and whether it's weird how they do both the crazy ones and also the super simple ones really well, because I think the super simple ones are also really understated. One of the ones that I actually found was really impressive is that they had a really good wig for Lando Calrissian, which is like, you wouldn't think that's a hard, but like, it's also like, if you're ever trying to look into wigs, it's really hard to get good short wigs.
Yeah,
because
they all look the same.
Yeah, and they don't really go like that short, like my hair short. You don't really find wigs.
You don't get like hairline that goes back.
Exactly. So I've seen that wig, and it was like really spot on, and just like you just got to check it out, this stuff. So check out Hero Hair on all the social networks and such, and also check out the hashtag Crown Your Cosplay. Thank you so much, Hero Hair, for sponsoring the podcast and making everything possible that we do here. All right. I'd like to insert a quick cosplay tip in here that I've kind of found out myself, because this is what happens when you don't listen to advice, especially when it comes to rushing, because this happens a lot. If you like doing armor work, one of my favorite primers to use is Plasti Dip. Plasti Dip is a spray that you can find in like the automotive section of like Walmart or in Home Depot, and it's really great. It's not that expensive, and it puts and it's also more flexible and weatherproof than Mod Podge, which is what a lot of people use, or other glue-related things. However, something that you might find if you're not getting the smooth results you're looking for is that when using Plasti Dip, it's preferred that if you heat it up by having a warm bucket of water and putting the can in that before you use it. So it basically makes sure that the contents of the can is at the temperature that really should be to have a nice clear coat. Didn't do that.
Who knew?
And I was it's not exactly on the directions, but like when you're looking for a really clear finish on like an arbor piece, which is really crucial, especially things that are supposed to look very metal oriented, if you don't do that, you'll spray it, you'll see some inconsistencies with it being like layered, or just like kind of like the, you know how you have like fuzzies on like cotton clothes. You'll have a similar effect on your armor when trying to spray this, and it's just like, this isn't the result I want. And the thing is that if you mess up primer, it's really hard to come back from that, So that's a tip that I learned recently that could definitely save some people who are having a frustrating time trying to learn how to use Plasti Dip. I highly recommend using Plasti Dip for priming cosplays. I don't know if you've ever used Plasti Dip at all.
I actually haven't, but I will say, you mentioned automotive section. Automotive paints are great for armor.
It's true. I ran into someone at PAX East this weekend who used resin and Bondo. Bondo, man, that's some extreme stuff, because Bondo is what they use to repair the aluminum of cars. And
I used Bondo recently.
So you really know.
For any of these things, also, please, I know from experience, please ventilate your space.
Yes.
Wear a face mask. Please take care of yourself.
Please,
cosplayers, just please take care of yourself.
Anything aerosol, doesn't matter if it's paint, doesn't matter if it's primer, or anything that's aerosol, do so either preferably outside or at least in a very well ventilated area.
Open all your windows, come on, please.
Yeah.
Take it from someone who has not done that in the past, and then it's just not a good time.
Mm-hmm. Also, we're talking about ventilation. Also, be careful about glues. Some super glues, actually, because especially when you're gluing something like super glues, you can you have your face really close to it. Yeah. It's pretty easy to really breathe in some of the toxins, and you'll find out if you're using a lot of super glue at once, you can actually oh wow, I smell like you could feel that that's not something I should be smelling.
Yeah.
So, when you're breathing in some fumes. So. Yeah, safety first, people. If you're not sure how to use something, please, there's so much stuff on YouTube that you can always find out for anything.
If you ever look at any of my work in progress pictures that I have on my Instagram, I'm either always wearing a bandana that's covering my nose or was covering my nose. There are safety glasses, and now I have 2 face masks hanging on my wall that are there for the times when you really need it.
So, we're going to go into, I guess, what we're calling our topical section, where we just have something that we want to talk about real quick that's topical. Last time we talked about Vero. We haven't, to be honest, we both tried it. Not too much has been going on, really. No. They haven't charged anybody yet for anything, so I guess they haven't had a million users yet.
I barely keep active my Facebook. I don't know.
Instagram is the only consistency with most cosplayers, I'd say. Yeah. I'm only consistent on Facebook because I have all my Instagram stuff auto-republish from Instagram onto Facebook.
It started doing that to my personal Facebook, so I stopped that, and I was like, oh.
It used to be worse with that. They are much better with that now. Because I used to, every time I did that, I always checked my personal Facebook to make sure it didn't accidentally end up on there somehow. But I haven't done that in a long time. It's just never ended up on there. So it might be worth a retry for that. Because it does save me a lot of time and effort.
Yeah.
The other thing we want to talk about right now is that anyone inside or outside of the area has probably heard of AAC being another anime con, and it was recently brought up that they will not be able to host their convention at the Radisson this year, being their place in Manchester, New Hampshire. And a lot of people in the community knew about this the past few months, but no one knew what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And news just broke about what is happening is that they're moving to this location in Nashua. Yeah, it is a smaller location in a hotel, so anybody who's
Crown Plaza,
I think so, yeah. It's not a very big space, and they're capping it at 1,000 people. And
super small.
Super small, And tickets got more expensive.
Yes.
So, and by more expensive, I believe they said $70 for the weekend.
I want to say like 70 or 75, yeah.
Now, do you happen to know if that's early bird pricing or that's just the end price?
I don't know off the top of my head. My friend looked it up recently, and I want to say the number was 70 or 75, and I don't know because of 1,000 people cap if they actually are doing early bird pricing. But even so, it might be like 70 and then it bumps to 75 or something like that. Those extra 5.
Right.
Don't know. Check the website.
Yeah, they're one of the cons that at least used to participate in, like, hey, if you got your tickets like way in advance, you save 10 or $20 on your tickets. So I don't know if they're still doing that. But another problem with this is that they also moved the date from usually a first or second weekend in October to the first or second weekend of November, which is on the same weekend as Anime NYC.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've talked about it. I don't think I've talked about it on any of our podcasts on Geek Kind. However, I did have a 2017 convention wrap-up on Geek Kind. If you haven't checked that out yet, you can find that out on geekkind.tv. When I talked about Anime NYC, their debut con, it was brand new, hosted by Crunchyroll. Fantastic con, hosted in the Javits Center, just like New York Comic Con, but not nearly as busy. But for like it went great. But that con is like one of my new favorite cons, and especially for like an experience for like anime cons, definitely comparable to, or at least will be comparable to, Anime Boston. Like, I feel like at the stage that they were at, being their first year, they went above and beyond what was expected. Right. And I feel like they have nowhere to go but up as attendance goes up, as the word gets out about how good this convention was. And so you've got Anime NYC on the upswing, you've got AAC on the downswing. Both have a lot of people interested in them, but if you're someone who doesn't have any travel restrictions, what con are you going to?
None. That just happens to be like a very busy time of year for me anyway, so like those cons are usually pretty difficult for me to get to. But yeah, I'm not that upset about the AAC like move. Also, like, I don't know, I used to live in Nashua, so like it holds like a little place in my heart where I'm like, oh, back home. And I think actually the biggest thing is the ticket pricing going up, because it is a small con. And I know they've had issues in the past of like, because of its location, it was very easy just to like hang out in the hotel lobby without a con badge, or hang out on the greens without a con badge, and it was like a lot of people would do that and then just like take their friend's badge to go into the dealer's room, and that was causing some problems, which they've had to crack down on. So somehow to me, increasing the price is just like, for a lot of people, going to be a huge factor turnoff. And like, I'm sure Anime NYC is like similar, and maybe it's like more expensive for some people to get there. Right. But it absolutely depends on like what type of scene you want. Then the small local con that's going to be real small, or something that's big and growing, and I've heard only really positive things about. Yeah. And just for reference here, last year the tickets to Anime NYC was $60 for the weekend. Wow, that's so cheap. This year it's going to be $65. Still cheaper. That's still so cheap. Yeah, and I guarantee you that this con will have multiple times. Because like Katsu was around $70, $75. So like that's my mental standard. Exactly. So when you're looking at Ketsucon, which has 20,000 plus people charging that, right, and you got a con that has capped at 1,000 people with a smaller venue, like, I'm not trying to like trash this con, but like a lot of like things not looking good for this, because it's a new location. They've got it's a lot of last minute stuff. That's what worries me. Like, they've only just announced them too. Oh, I'm sure it does. It does. And something I will say I really liked and really respected is I heard this news break, and all I was seeing was people on Instagram like complaining on their stories, or just being like, this is a bummer. Like, not even complaining, just saying, sorry, love you guys, but can't come. AAC posted in their Facebook group that like, hey, the founders of the con, the people who run the con, will be at a table at Anime Boston and come to talk to us directly with your questions and concerns. Like, we're here for you to talk. And I thought that was like kind of nice that they were making themselves open and public, and not going to be like, here's our iron wall of the internet, like, watch out. They were very much like, we know, we understand what's happening. It hurts us too. Let's just chat. So like, I really hope that this year kind of just like goes under the radar, and then like next year they can. Right. Which is why I think that
it would have been wise for them to honestly just take a year off, take a break to recollect themselves. However,
I think they were too deep into it, though.
right, because I was talking to somebody who helps run a convention himself, who said that they probably have obligations with voice actors and celebrities and stuff like that they've already signed contracts with, that if they were, like, they're still getting paid regardless, and we're talking like $1,000, like, not like $1,000, like single $1,000, like thousands of dollars of deals here, and if they don't make any money, then they're out a lot of money, and that could potentially ruin their chance of ever having another convention ever.
Right.
So it's like they could have been just too far in the hole where they had to have a convention of some sort so they could at least get some money back so they could eventually get a more ideal location. Because I know that the organization itself this was not their choice. They went to several places to try to host their convention, and it was not happening. So
yay. Which is funny because the Radisson, unless things change, hosts Granite State Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Which I went to, and it was like a very small, fun little con. Like, it was good for just seeing friends.
Great community type con. I love those. And yeah, again, if you look at that 2017 recap, I went to AAC last year. Fantastic experience, one of my favorites because very community oriented.
It was one of my early cons too, and like, I go when I can.
And they make a lot of, it's in that sweet spot where it's like smaller, so it's a lot easier to hang out with people and get to know new people. However, they still have events and panels that are worthwhile going to, and also bring in some cool guests. Like, I don't know if you know ProZD from YouTube. He's a really funny dude, and he was there, and I was like, that's really cool. But they also have like legit, like, they had Matt Mercer. No, I think, yeah, what? Like the
where was I?
No, wait, I'm trying to think if I'm thinking the right person. The person who does the voice for one of the Attack on Titan people.
Oh, shoot.
Because
I don't know if Matt Mercer did that.
No, I don't think Matt Mercer, because I'm thinking Matt Mercer, that's for like Critical Role, and not him.
He's McCree,
yeah, not Matt Mercer. Sorry, false alarm. One of the other really big...
Matt Mercer, come to AAC.
Yeah, that'd be great. No, one of the other... He's also another famous, like, really famous voice actor. I'm trying to remember his name. But they actually bring in big names there. They don't have a ton. They have like a dozen, but they'll have big names there that you definitely want to see.
I mean, I have fond memories of it. There was a panel... I think something about the community of AAC that I think will actually keep people going, and I think they might struggle to reach 3,000 cap, but somehow I feel in my heart they're going to do it. And it's that there was a panel that was supposed to be like anime elections and politics, and the panelists just like all bailed last minute. Like, it was just like the guy running the panel, but the actual panelists, like, one got stuck in traffic, one got sick, and like 2 just didn't show up or something like that. And they're like, well, we're letting this go to the audience now. Audience, who wants to run for president of anime? Yeah. And one of my friends won vice president of anime, and he was cosplaying Spike Spiegel, and his whole platform was, I don't care. And it was like so in character and so imperfect. I've never seen like my friends do this type of stuff, and that was just like such a cool, weird moment that I think like really defines the AAC community. And then after that, I've heard my friends recommend AAC to tons of people. So I really do think they'll come back. It's just this year is going to be a little rocky.
It's going to be a tough one for them for sure. But I am rooting for them. I want them to see them come through this. They have a lot of challenges up ahead, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see how it pans out. It's unfortunate because I'm going to have to choose between the two, and I'm telling you right now, I'm choosing Animated NYC over that. Simply because, like, I want to, like, I really, really enjoyed that con. I don't have many excuses to go to New York City. That's one of them.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, and I think that...
I like the Javits Center a lot as well.
Right. I think in the future, hopefully won't try to compete with anime. I don't think they're trying to compete with anime.
No,
I would say
not at all.
They probably were very limited on the dates that they could choose. So I'm sure once they have their preference on location and dates, they won't have it on the same time. So for the last part of this podcast, we're going to talk about more of the controversial like fandoms within cosplay that you'll see, and we both have personal experiences within these fandoms, so we're hoping to offer a much more positive side to all this, and maybe something that's more relatable to something that there hasn't been much relation from in the past. So then like for you, like I think it's like a good place to start because this is how you start with cosplay. Let's get into it.
So the good old year of 2012 when I started, my first cosplay was Homestuck, and that's a name that everyone in the community knows and knows well, and often groans about. But I started off full-fledged gray body paint everywhere. If anyone here is a Homestuck fan, I cosplayed Aradia Megiddo, Arania Circuit, and Jade Harley. I feel like there were more in there, but like that's how my friends and I met up. The webcomic was huge. It was still going on. None of the pauses had happened yet. And it was just like an awesome community, and I built so many friends through that. That's honestly the reason I went to Anime Boston the first time, is because I had some like Tumblr Homestuck friends, and one year they're like, ha ha ha, Anime Boston, and I'm like, ooh, what's that? I also like anime. And I went, and honest to God, the first time I met up with them, it was probably the most magical con experience I've ever had, because there is this group of people that I've been talking to online that like I considered myself close with, and I never really had a huge concept of like internet stranger danger. Yeah. And the first time I met them, they just like ran up and gave me a giant hug, and I was like, oh, friends. Oh, yeah. Friendship, yeah. But the thing with the Homestuck community is that it just got like, if you have 1 in every 10 people that aren't that great to the community, when you multiply by like 10,000 plus Homestuck people, you're in some territory for some not so great influences. And I also remember, like, there was a guy that was on Tumblr a lot that would... Because these are also the glory days of Tumblr.
Yeah, it's true.
Who was just, like, shaming a ton of different Homestuck cosplayers. Because he's like, you need to cosplay hard and cosplay with passion. And, like, that stuck with me for a while, where I was like, am I cosplaying hard and with passion?
Where's the passion?
Yeah. And that was, like, very frowned upon. And, honest to God, I actually, like, went through my old Tumblr on my birthday recently, so now that like I'm old, we're done, I went through it, and I just went through all the pictures, all the posts, everything, and I was like, wow, what glory days. What glory days I had. And that fandom just like meant so much to me. And also, honest to God, I'm cosplaying Homestuck next weekend with my friend, because there are video games coming out, and that also was a large controversy, because there was a Kickstarter for this Homestuck video game. At the time, it was the most funded Kickstarter. The game is called Hive Swap. And what happened was that the creator of Homestuck, Andrew Hussey, the video game company he hired to do the game, left and took all the Kickstarter money. They just, like, dropped off the face of the earth. And he's been in lawsuits with them for, like, 2 years now, trying to get the money back for the game.
Wow.
But basically, he just raised over $1 million for this, ended up with zero, and had people waiting for a game. And so he had to like scrounge together money and get like literally like one guy to do, or one gal, I don't know who, to do some work on it. And the community just got like really upset about it, because we were promised this thing in like...
That people put money into.
Yeah, that we donated a lot of money to. And I also personally donated a lot. But we put money into this, and then it's not going to come out for like another 4 years because of this issue. And like, it was something unfortunate that happened, but there's not really much that he could do or that we could do as a fandom other than like throw more money. But then there was also, because of the lawsuits, the comic went on pause for a long time, because like he just had so much personal stuff going on then. And then people on the internet just got even more mad, which I think increased the animosity of the Homestuck fandom. But like, the Homestuck fans today, y'all are strong. If you can still put on that much gray body paint, like, good for you. That is a skill and an accomplishment. And like, the game is out now, and the second installment of the game is coming out in the next like 4 months. It's slated for spring 2018, which is now. Right. So there's still something like a little spark about it, and I'm always going to be there in my heart. But I do find, like, when I tell people that, like, I started cosplaying with Homestuck, or I like Homestuck,
they, like, raise an eyebrow.
Yeah, and I've had people be, like, jokingly be like, oh, we're not friends anymore. And that's just, like, not a great introduction.
Or just like, oh, but you've grown out of that.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, I haven't. And, like,
even if you don't actively do it as much, there's just, like, I still like that still legitimately was a thing for me. It's not like it's illegitimate because I don't do it as much. You know?
And like, I don't have any bad memories with it. There's nothing that I had that was negative. And if you had a negative experience, like, I'm sure you could say that with like any large fandom or any large thing. Like, I can name so many fandoms that are just like people don't associate with them, and like that's not fair to.
Well, what's some of the negative stuff that's always being said about the Homestuck community, and what ones are legitimate and what ones are misrepresented?
Gray body paint, please. One of the big complaints cosplayers have is sometimes people will forget to seal their gray body paint or not seal it well enough, and so then you go in for a hug and now you've just left someone's cosplay completely gray, and they've worked very hard on that, and that's not really that cool. And that does happen sometimes, but like, I think enough of us have heard like horror stories of that happening, and you just do your best to avoid.
It's not just on other people, like at the conventions and hotels.
Oh, yeah, that's also true. Like, that stuff stains. I mean, like, you get it out with soap and water, but it's like quite an annoyance at the time. And I've done like body paint cosplay since, and every time I'm like, why are you doing this again? And actually, something that's been growing in popularity, and like with things like Steven Universe now, it's coming back in popularity, is doing like arm socks. So people will take tights or gloves and like sew them into the hand if it's a tight, and then they'll put like fake nails on it or whatever so it looks normal. And that's like a really nice way to avoid body
because
paint.
Then for the most part, depending on what clothes you have, you only have to paint your face.
Yeah, which
like
is
your
like
neck.
fine.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Like you're not exactly rubbing your face against the walls.
Like, I cosplayed Wizardmon recently, and I painted from Digimon, good throwback. I painted my face blue, but then like I had gloves on, so I didn't paint my hands, and there's like a photo of me like holding a water bottle without my gloves, and it just looks so funny, the dichotomy of like hands to face. But that's like a big complaint. And then something else was just like how loud and obnoxious the fandom was because of numbers. Also,
I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like a lot of the fandom is like more tilted to a younger fan base.
I'd say so, and I'd say that's still the case. I don't really... I have seen some cosplayers that I think are incredible in the community be like, yeah, no, we're going back to Homestuck, and they'll like bring out their like incredible Homestuck cosplays again. And once again, respect for that, because I think some of these huge cosplayers have a lot of influence on the community, and the fact that they're still embracing it like really reflects well. But the numbers of everyone, so there's a lot of like loud screaming fans who were just very in your face for a while, and once again, I feel like that's something that just happens when you have a large number of people in your fandom. It's kind of hard if you are cosplaying a series and you are the only person loud and screaming, then like no one's gonna associate that fandom with loud and screaming. But when it's a whole mob of you, and I come from a smaller town where there was never any like meetup stuff. Like there was Boston stuff was a big thing.
I was gonna say, do they have conventions specifically for Homestuck?
Not specifically. I guess you could say DashCon, Tumblr's Con was probably like specifically Homestuck.
So what cons do they like to lean towards more as far as coming to conventions?
I've found like I'd say smaller ones, smaller to like mid-size. Like Anime Boston was a big hub because I think cities are big.
Right.
But during like the height of Homestuck, there was meetups where it would be like Boston Stuck, and a bunch of Homestuck cosplayers in Boston would get together in the commons and just like hang out and have a good time. And that was always something I looked at from afar and been like, oh, I wish I could be there. But I've also heard like some like toxic stories from that, just because it's a small community of a lot of very like passionate people, and
passion was definitely there.
Oh yeah. Cosplaying hard and with passion, but a lot of the times like people just kind of didn't gel well, and because we were all new to the cosplay community, or like it wasn't a con where there are tons of people that you can just like, you can leave, you don't need to be with this person all the time, it became like a little bit less than great for the community. And at least I know in some of the bigger cities it broke up some friendships and stuff.
Yeah,
and that's like, I mean, that's also a tough
that's
thing.
A lot of thing with like fandoms and anything when you get super close to. Even like one of the better ones in my opinion being the Ruby community, which I think is a great one, but there's still drama and toxicity in there, you know.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a lot of that in any like fandom or anything in this, you know, especially as it's becoming more mainstreaming. We're seeing a lot more bullying and things like that, regardless of where it is. I want to come back to more of that as far as where we're at now with that and the impact that's had in your life. And I want to save that because I want to throw in my side of things because I feel like we're going to come to the same answer here.
I feel like we are.
Yeah. So for me, anyways, I don't have no upbringing with Homestuck whatsoever. Didn't even know about it until I started cosplaying.
Don't start. It's so long.
But for me, in my like mid-teens, I became a part of the furry fandom.
I was gonna make a joke saying, "For you, is that a pun?"
Oh, no, actually, it wasn't. But that would totally be me to make puns. Everybody knows that. Anybody who knows me love to make puns. But so yeah, like that's another like what, and it's like. So this one is like Homestuck. You see a lot of like actual cosplays, and you'll see that at normal cons. Like furries is a little bit different because it is still technically cosplay, but people don't see that because a lot of the cosplays, in fact, almost like all of the cosplays are OCs or original characters, and like original characters in general, people don't like. Well, why would you do original character?
You don't recognize it. I will say people cosplay their fan trolls, and yes, I made a fan troll. Like, let's be real.
I think that, like, people need to understand that people cosplay for several different reasons, and that's, like, kind of what we're building up to here, and, like, people who do, like, so, I'll explain, like, the furry, like, fandom a little bit. So, like, there's a lot of, like, misconceptions of what actually means to be a furry, and just, like, blanket statements. Because it's such a huge, vast community that the only thing that really applies to everybody within the community is that someone who's a furry is someone who just really likes anthropomorphic art. And anthropomorphic is just anything that's like half human, half animal. So there's a lot of stuff that's Disney oriented. So like the original cartoon Robin Hood. That's anthropomorphic. More recent examples from Disney is Zootopia. Anthropomorphic.
My friend made jokes. She's like, if I watch Zootopia, I'm a furry now. Like, that's it. Like, I'm gonna fall in love with it, and that's the whole thing.
Yeah. So we joke with one of my friends who likes to watch, who loves Inuyasha. It's like, is that furry or is that not? It's like they've got like it's just some like so. But basically, like it's kind of like there could be debates about just like what exactly is anthropomorphic exactly. But for the most part. Anybody who just enjoys that art form, just like anime, how people enjoy Japanese art form, that's a fandom. That's all that.
Sometimes even like people misconstrue that as well.
Yeah, because people will look at like the very interesting sides of things where people just have it for very sexual reasons, just like throwing that out there. So, I think a very negative thing is that people immediately assume that because it doesn't have necessarily, we don't really like, we have inspiration from things like Disney, but we don't really pull from an exact source. A lot of this really comes from ourselves, and I know in Homestuck actually they have a lot of original characters as well.
There are just a lot of characters.
There's a lot of characters in general.
Oh boy.
But I think it's more about, this one's different because it's more about creating the character that you would want to cosplay.
I think it's really cool.
It is really cool. And so so basically, a furry can be anyone who enjoys this art. However, whether you participate in that art or not, I guess is what makes you a furry or not. So like, oh, I enjoy that art form. Does that make me a furry? Well, it depends on whether you consider yourself or not. And that's really the only line that there is like, would you label yourself that? Then there's your answer. So, if you're actually in the community, then one of the things you'll most likely do, you're not required to, but you'll most likely make a thing called a fursona, which is just your character that it could be literally just you, or it can be someone that you think is fun, or someone who's exactly the opposite of you, or someone you aspire to be.
It's an OC of sorts.
Yeah, and it's when you have anthropomorphic stuff under your disposal, there's like so many different like types of things you can pull through for artistic designs from animals that you can use, and just like lots of crazy colors and all this stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And then, so you've got that, and then you can, like, of course, there's community, so you'll chat with a lot of people. Some people enjoy role-playing. I didn't as much, but some people like doing that, like, just, like, pretending like they're having their own story and adventures with the characters. Almost kind of like a D&D thing, but less of, like, a game and more of just freelancing.
Like that.
Yeah.
I mean, D&D is role-playing. So
yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. And, yeah, like, if you think that making your original characters is outrageous and you like D&D, well, you're making your original characters every time you play a D&D, so...
Oh, God,
yeah. Ooh, but yeah, so, and then, because a lot of people think that, like, all furries, like, have fursuits, and that's what basically we would call the cosplaying of our community. But such a small percentage of people do that for two reasons. One, they haven't built up the confidence to do that, because then you're talking about doing that public. You don't just have a fursuit in your bedroom. You know, you go out with friends or at conventions. But also, they're super expensive, and by super expensive, they're thousands of dollars. If you want actually a decent full fursuit, bare minimum $1,000.
And I know they're hot too. I don't know if you've ever worn a mascot suit. Anyone here?
It's the same premise, yeah.
It's so hot, and people literally have fans built in the back. Y'all are stronger than Homestuck cosplayers, really.
But I think the furry fandom gets a lot of crap because, one, a lot of people don't understand it. You know,
I think that's huge.
Yeah. The same thing with Homestuck. It's why does everyone want to paint their whole body gray? You know, that seems just weird. But then also, like how you said, the Homestuck community can kind of be round and rambunctious. One of the things about furry community is that if you're cosplaying your OC, you're going to most people cosplay their OC to be like their OC. So a lot of people aspire to be more more out there, outgoing, extroverted, especially introverted people, and this is a way of feeling like they can actually pretend that they're someone else for a little bit. And some people do that with cosplay. That's totally a thing that cosplayers do all the time. I think it's more prevalent in the furry community and people who fursuit especially. And so you're going to find a lot of people who are kind of crazy, and sometimes it just kind of catches you off guard, and you're not about that, and then you don't understand why they're wearing a freaking suit, and then also when you can't find a source, that also kind of makes it
weird when you
difficult
don't
to
see
understand.
a human face behind it,
right?
And it's the same thing. I was afraid of mascots for a long time, going to parks, amusement parks, and seeing a mascot in some suit. I'd be like, I'm out, we're gone. And that's something I've overcome in my years of life, but I think that definitely throws people off.
And the quick thing I want to dispel, people who are furries, there is a separate community for people who do feel this way, but the traditional furry does not feel like they're spiritually an animal, or anything like that.
The meme, in all manners matter.
Yeah, no, there's actually a separate group for that. People, I want to say it. People are going to be mad at me if I say this wrong, but forgive me. I believe it's Ethereum.
Don't tweet at him.
Yeah, please don't. But no, there is a separate group that can sometimes be included in the furry fandom, because they do also enjoy furry art, obviously, but there is some people who feel like they are actually an animal, or feel like they are a spirit animal. There's a part of their soul that's for most furries, that's not the case at all. So literally, you can compare fursuiting to cosplay, and you can compare making your OC to playing D&D, so.
And I will say, my artist friends, I have one artist friend that loves furries. She goes to furry cons because the work that gets commissioned is so good, and there's just some, like you said, some cool colors, designs, everything. And I'll be standing with her in a group of friends, and she sees a group of people in fursuit, and she just darts in over and hugs them. Yeah. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I think it's really, I'll say this a little bit later, but like you mentioned, there's a whole lot of talent in the community, especially when it's very dedicated around art and about making art for the fandom. There's a lot of talented artists in here, a lot of really cool art that you'll see, and I think it does a lot of fun. Now, for the people who think that it's a fetish, well, yeah, but guess what? Every fandom has a fetish side to them, but that's such a small percentage, and this percentage is no different than any other fandom. However, when people can't understand what makes the fandom tick, sometimes they'll pick a certain thing and really stick to it.
It's all embedded.
Yeah, and anybody who's not into geek culture in general, who knows about furries, that's the first thing that they go to.
Which I, once again, think same with anime times.
And as a furry myself, I can attest that that's such a small percentage of yes, they're out there, but it's far from the majority of people. Yeah. Also, the furry fandom includes a lot of people who are normally minorities. So whether it be race or sexual orientation or whatever, you'll find a lot of people go there because it's a safer place. But it's not as much as the community's people think. I think that people thought that 3/4 of the furry fandom was gay or basically non-straight or some capacity, when at best they said that maybe 25, maybe at best up to 50, but still the majority is far just your average
Average.
Yeah, like there's still minorities, even with there's a much larger minority in here, but like it's still like fairly representational a percentage, despite what people may think. But like the people who are really into it are the people who are really out there, and they don't give off wrong impressions. I'd say it's just that they're different and they're really out there, and if you can't understand it, you're gonna think it's really weird really quick, you know. But yeah, but capping off this whole conversation in general is I think the positive sides, and I think that like a lot of people say like, oh yeah, you'll grow out of it, when I like yes and no. It's like, no, it's not something you grow out of. Like, it's something that you kind of like utilize for a certain period of your life, and that it'll always be a part of you though. Like, it's not something that like just goes away. But like for me, it really helped me find out who I was, because I felt like I was able to exploit myself more, you know. And I'm sure you've had similar experiences.
It was just like, I mean, my first con was Homestuck. First, like, really, really nerdy things was getting into Homestuck. Because, like, I did, like, a book report on a card captor manga in 2nd grade. Like, so I had book reports in 2nd grade? What? But that was, like, something I was into. And then Homestuck was, like, the first time that I started, like, showing nerdy things. And, like, that's what got me so many friends. And, shocking. I've made my friends through Homestuck and through D&D. Who knew? And that's, like, something that I don't want to really give up in my life. And I was meeting up with some friends from, like, my first con at Anime Boston, and we're all just sitting there like, remember the good old days? Like, we're not over it. We're not done. Yeah. And that's because, once again, we have no negative memories, and, like, it did nothing bad for us. If it just gave us a lot of friends, and how can you be upset about that? Exactly.
I think, because when it comes down to it, they're just fandoms, like any other fandoms, and, like, I think the problem is that just when it's harder to relate to, you know, it seems a little bit more out of reach in other fandoms, it's easy to kind of point the fingers at them, and like they're the weird ones.
Think it's kind of like the newest one to me is the Rick and Morty fandom, where like all it takes is one kid jumping on the table at McDonald's screaming about Szechuan sauce, and now everyone's like, we're out, can't do Rick and Morty anymore, guys, we're gone. And that's just like perfect example to me of how something that's like not that bad, and maybe it's bad for some people, and you're allowed to hold that opinion. Yeah. If you've had your own negative experiences.
People have definitely had bad experiences with Homestuck. People, they've had bad experiences with furries. We're not saying that those aren't valid, but
it's kind of like any generic community. Like, you can't put the stereotype label on everyone just for that. And like it's disheartening, but at the same time, if you like it, you will still find a community of people that like it. And
I think what's so important here that we want to emphasize is that as cosplayers, we're all about accepting people, you know.
We try our best,
Yeah, and I think that it's kind of silly that, you know, obviously we're not perfect, but like as a community of people who are trying to be more open, accepting of all types of people and all sorts of fandoms, because we all like our funny and weird things, that we still have groups of people that we still point out to as the weirdos.
Exactly.
And I would encourage people to have a little more of an open mind, you know, not to make
talk to people, figure out why they like what they like. Maybe you find something you like too.
Exactly. Yeah,
people will love to talk about what they love.
Yeah, exactly. And I love it when people talk about their passions. It's one of the best things. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, you know. Like, I'm not saying go out of your way to find something, but if you find yourself in a situation where it's like, I could talk to this person who was just wearing a fruit, or I could talk to this person who's clearly Homestuck. Like, if you're in a line, like you're in a line for a con and you see someone, feel free to talk with them. Ask them why they do what they do, and I'm sure they'll have a million great reasons.
Can I share an anecdote to kind of cap it off? I was at Anime Boston last year, so 2017, and I was waiting for a photo shoot, and a mom comes up to me because I guess I looked personable. I was in a magical girl outfit. How can you not? And she's like, do you know what Homestuck is? And I was like, do I know what Homestuck is?
Listen here.
That was a meme, actually. Let me tell you about Homestuck. And I'm like, yeah, I do. What's up? And she goes, so this is my daughter's first convention. She's cosplaying Homestuck. She wasn't home until like 2 a.m. last night 'cause she was with all her Homestuck friends. And I like sit down and I'm like, Mom, I've been there. I've made my mom do the same worry thing. Like, we're there together. And I like tell this mom about like all my positive experiences in Homestuck, and like how what her daughter went through is exactly what I did the first year I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I like had her show me pictures of her daughter's cosplay. It was super cute. It was really good. And we just like talked about it, and I just like watched this mom's worry like wash away, and it like made me also feel so good to know that that like good, pure, original Homestuck community was still there in some form, and that like this girl was still having the exact same positive experience that I did, and I was like, oh, there you go.
Because I think that really proves my point, is that it's all about it seeming relatable. Because as soon as you make it relatable, it's like, it all makes sense.
Absolutely.
So yeah, if you just take the time, especially if you're someone in the either one of our fandoms or just in a fandom that's kind of a minority in itself, feel free to like explain to people why it means something to you. Don't be afraid to just only talk to people within your fandom. You know, I feel like the more time you spend really explaining like the best sides of it, and like you said, it'll just wash away, you know, because you realize that, you know, this is actually cool, you know.
Yeah, why not?
So yeah, that's a good note to end on.
Nice happy one.
Yeah, so yeah, just like, come on guys, we're all friendly people.
We're all nerds.
Yeah, we're all nerds.
Embrace that.
Embrace it. All right. Well, thank you for watching this episode of Coscast. We'll see you next week, and remember, stay kind, geeks.